Okay, hello everybody, welcome. This is meetup number 89. We have a smaller group today, but I'm sure that many people will watch this online afterwards and maybe a few more people will join us. Instead of going out into breakout rooms, maybe we can just all go around and say where we are, who we teach, and our names. Sorry, I just forgot the last question. So I can start. My name is Veronica. I live in the Boston area. I teach flute and piano private lessons, and I teach Dalcroze classes for kids. And I'll call on Teo.
Teo. Hello, I'm Teo. I'm currently still studying Dalcroze at Carnegie Mellon, and I plan to teach teenagers. And calling on Emma.
Hey all, I'm Emma. I teach everybody from tiny babies and their parents all the way up through adults and professionals and beyond. I'm currently working on a PhD in early childhood music education, looking at how movement impacts learning at the instrument. And I will nominate Anne. Oh, I'm in Luxembourg in Europe. And I think
Hi, I'm
go ahead.
I just had to unmute. I'm Anne. I'm in Malaysia. I've been teaching music in schools for 25 years, and I'm currently teaching piano. And I call on, oh, I can't see who's here. Hang on. Uh, I call on Emily.
Yeah, hi. My name is Emily G, and I am the director of the Musicians Wellness Program at the CU Boulder College of Music in Colorado. And I'll call on Monique.
Hi, I'm Monique. I'm a big Eurythmics fan. I'm at Carnegie Mellon University and took all of Stephen Neely's classes. Very happy to be here with you and talk to you a little bit more about my work. Calling on Selma.
Hi, I'm Selma Odom in Toronto, Canada. I had a hard time getting into the Zoom world this time. I don't know why, that's why I'm late, but apologies. I am a retired teacher from York University, dance historian by background.
Welcome, everybody. So glad you're here. So just wanted to tell you about a couple upcoming events, both for the people in this room and who might be watching afterwards. Next week, Selma is starting her short course, and I'm really excited for it because it's going to be an experiential course, but it also involves some reflection about our own experiences and some history. And I think it's the first time we've had any sort of VDM offering that kind of dives into the history of our practice. Selma, do you want to say anything more about your short course?
Sure, I'm having a wonderful time planning it actually because I am guided by the wanting to have everyone together moving for part of it, but also we're going to have some picture shows with information and pointing to things to read and follow up with. I think it'll be a really interesting thing to try to do on Zoom, and I'm hoping that by then by the first class, I will have become more competent. But luckily, I know people will help me if I have trouble technically, so I'm sure it's a safe scene. Looking forward to it.
We are so excited, and you are so competent in so many ways. You can just share your wisdom and your insights and all of your beautiful knowledge with us. After Selma's course, we will have Kay Barker present a masterclass, and that's on November 15th or 16th, depending on where you live. And we're excited to feature her. You can sign up for both Selma's short course and Kay Barker's masterclass on virtualdalcroze.org. And Emma, do you have anything to add about these events before we go into today?
As always, Integral Steps, which is one of our partners that is a nonprofit, is really happy to support anyone new to these spaces. So if there are students or people who couldn't otherwise attend, we want to make sure they can be able to attend. And so we are really especially excited to have new faces in these rooms. And so if you have any students who are dipping their toe into the Dalcroze world and want a chance to see internationally acclaimed and extraordinary humans and teachers and educators like we find in these rooms, they are so welcome to join us. We'll find a way to make it work. And I just don't know another place where we get to hang out with Selma and Kay in the same week. And so I'm just really excited about the upcoming things and for our talk today with friends
And I
from
just want to
near and
add
far.
that what Emma was talking about was our scholarship program. And so there's a,
Oh, goodness.
I think you were
Yes,
just
so
like
sorry.
giving the why. So yeah, the
Why?
scholarship
Yes,
program.
sorry.
And there's a quick little form that someone can fill out. Takes about a minute. So that's on our website and in our newsletter.
Basically, if you say we believe you, if you want to be here with us, we want you to be here with us. And yes, scholarship form, pardon me. I don't know that I have much other to add other than it's just been a real joy to support our colleagues for being here today and also for these upcoming classes. Selma and I had some really wonderful talks leading up to it. It's going to be great.
So today we will hear from Monique and then from Emily, and we'll have a lovely discussion. So Monique, please go ahead.
Mute. All right. Here we are. So hello, everybody. I was asked to talk about the wellness work that I'm doing in this space. I am primarily professor and director of music entrepreneurship at Carnegie Mellon University, and have been a professional violinist my whole life. A lot of that work was done in Germany, and now more recently, sound therapist and researcher in this space of how does sound affect the mind. I got into this space the same time that the virtual Dalcroze Meet was created because there was a crisis in 2020. And so for us at the university, it was really a question of dealing with the student mental health crisis and how are we going to be able to help them? And you know, as a musician and as an entrepreneur, I was thinking there's got to be something in the music field. And I remembered a time that I had been performing in Mexico at Rancho La Puerta, which is a beautiful resort and spa, where they held a sound bath in the afternoon. And I just lay on the floor, and the sound of, you know, one low droning singing bowl just sort of went right through my head and just took all my thoughts with it. And I thought that was a pretty significant and powerful experience. And that had sparked my interest, and I had done some research on that, and just let it be until the pandemic when there was no concerts to play. And I bought my first set of singing bowls and began to see how I could apply that as a musician in meaningful ways. So I'm going to show you just a couple of short excerpts. The first is of the sound bath that we now have at Carnegie Mellon as we're developing this. Can you hear this? Yeah. It's on our stage.
Oh, actually, I think Monique, we need to do the sound for video because it's cutting in and out.
Okay. All right. I can optimize that in my share, and I can do that right
Thank
there.
you.
Got it. Okay. Going back to this. So we continue to share. Yes. There we go. Let's see what we can do. My performance training class will have people be on the stage. Okay. Moving on. This is an example. Well, that was in a cave. All right, but moving on to now we call a mega surround sound bath in Heinz Chapel. People are, as you'll see, lying on the pews. I have the practitioners I've trained in the choir loft, all around the perimeter. People are sitting or lying in the pews, looking at the stained glass windows and receiving the sound vibration from these bowls. That's my daughter on the harp. These are all my students. Okay, all right. So those are just a few examples from training, right, and to various ways in which we're using this in the community to help people come down and reduce their stress. So a sound bath is, my best explanation for it is that it's an immersive acoustic experience that just uses sound vibration to induce and maintain deep relaxation so that the body can heal itself. Essentially, what I'm doing with sound is creating trance-like states, putting you into like a, theta and sometimes delta brainwave state. At that point, you're out of your thinking mind, you are in somewhere deeper, and that is also the place where the body kicks in and heals itself. So I think of this as sound vibration really as the underpinnings, the energetic underpinnings of music, and just the way Eurythmics is really the energetic underpinning of musical expression. The effects that people have on a physical level is, their body feels lighter. That's a very common one. People sleep very deeply. It does release suppressed emotion in people. And there's also a sense of lightness, of new possibilities. At Carnegie Mellon University, we, of course, did research on this to check the effectiveness of it. And on 250 people before and after a sound bath, we took some mood and stress questions led by behavioral health scientists. I'm not going to read them all to you. You can see what we were checking. Okay, many of them are sort of, let's say, constricting emotions, and then 2 were like confidence and energy that we measured in them before and after. The results were, and even though you can't read them too much, you can kind of see anything that's red, the level of red it's a heightened state of tension. And then that's before, and then after, you can see the red goes way down. The only places where we have a lot of red is confident and energetic. So those are just sort of at a glance, the before and after results. Now, for this study, it wasn't just like go in and just play a singing bowl, right? I had developed, based on my knowledge, of course, of music, of harmony, of rhythm, and of music therapy, very specific protocols that would take people on an arc. Think of it like a composition that would take people on a sonic journey to achieve these results. And the benefits are similar truly to meditation, and they're similar to any sort of healing practice that just reduces stress. Everything from physical to emotional well-being's there. All right, that's me enjoying coming full circle. I have since established sound baths, not only at Carnegie Mellon University, but now at the University of Pittsburgh. Students, actually 9 medical students cross-enrolled in my class last semester to be able to manage their own stress and also help the stress of others on campus. So there's now an active sound bath at Pitt. They do 3 or 4 sessions a week. Carnegie Mellon does 4 to 6 sessions a week, open and free to the entire community. And they're merging got one at Carnegie Mellon, University of Pittsburgh, Kent State is coming up next year, as is Atmajaya University in Indonesia. Be establishing one in Jakarta, and very happy to be traveling to Bali and Jakarta to do that. So quickly, how does it work? The whole principle is entrainment. Okay, the fact that our body syncs up to an external rhythm, and that's through vibroacoustic, which is the physical entrainment, and psychoacoustic, which is the entrainment of the brain. I don't think I have to explain how rhythm affects the body to you, so we'll move on. So on the physical side, and this comes out of music therapy, one of the most common things that a music therapist would do is go into the NICU where a baby's heartbeat is racing and match the baby's heart rate with a very, very fast drum, and then incrementally slow that drum to be able to slow the heart rate. And that works very effectively. And so that's one of the principles that I use, is using a rhythmic motif that is steady, but that almost imperceptibly gets slower as I then dissolve time and put people into a timeless state. If you see here, the Hertz frequency of the various brain waves, we are normally in a beta state, which is active thinking. And then when we're relaxed, we are in a theta state. So that's inner peace, right? The REM sleep, deep meditation. And that's also where the body begins to heal itself. I'm able to actually simulate a theta brainwave. So wow, 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 something like that, 4 to 8 beats per second. And I'm able to do that by using sounds, frequencies that are slightly off from each other. So let's say if I took, you know, an A220 and I had an A225, the resulting frequency between them, you would hear that harmonic beat that would be the difference there of 5 Hertz. That's very trippy. All right. So just sort of ending with a quote, from The Healing Power of Sound, which is Mitchell Gaynor was a director of medical oncology and integrative medicine at Cornell. One of the pioneers of sound healing. He said, if we accept that sound is vibration, and we know that vibration touches every part of our physical beings, then we understand that sound is heard not only through our ears, but through every cell in our bodies. Sound can redress imbalances on every level of physiologic functioning and can play a positive role in the treatment of virtually any medical disorder. Pretty powerful statement there. This is my sound studio. So I have actually a whole wall of gongs now, and people lie in these super cushy, comfy bean bags with blankets, and just come out feeling very relaxed. If you're curious about what that sounds like, I just released an album on Spotify and anywhere where you stream. It's called Beckonings. And if you listen with headphones, that can be very effective in, well, we'll see what it does to your mind. And the real reason I do this truly is if you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. And as we all know, that is essentially music and sound. And that's where I will end it.
Thank you so much, Monique. Really lovely things for us to talk about. We'll go on to Emily, and then we'll talk about both.
Okay, sorry. Let's see. Can you see this?
Yes.
Okay, there we go. Continue to share. Okay. Yeah, thank you, Monique. That was wonderful. It excites me because last week I actually had a sound healing session that we brought into our Musicians Wellness program, and have been excited to do more potentially with this woman who is based here in Boulder. But yeah, thank you all so much for having me and for inviting me to be with you today. My name is Emily G, and I am the director of the Musicians Wellness program at the University of Colorado Boulder College of Music. This was a program that was established in 2003, and originally had kind of deep roots in somatic methodologies to help with musicians' wellness here at the college. It was founded by Jim Brody, who is my predecessor here, and I just started at the College of Music in August. So I'm still in my first few months here as the director of this program. I'll tell you just a little bit about myself. I am a doctor of physical therapy and a yoga instructor, and I have a background in music as a cellist. Years and years ago, I had to leave my music career due to some playing related injuries. So I got thoracic outlet syndrome in my left shoulder, which affected circulation and motor control of my left hand. And then eventually it kind of turned into a secondary focal dystonia later on. So I had to step away from my music career for quite some time. And during that time, I kind of was lost in the medical system for a long time and saw a lot of different healthcare providers who didn't quite understand what we needed to do with our bodies as musicians. And so I became a physical therapist, sort of with the intention of returning to serve the musician community as a clinician, an educator, an advocate for improving health and wellness education for musicians, as well as a researcher. So I've been really excited to kind of come back now and work in a place of music and be able to kind of use all my tools in that way. But yeah, so I am a board certified orthopedic clinical specialist, which just means that I've spent a lot of time working with musculoskeletal and neuromuscular conditions in patients. I've worked with kids all the way through, I think my oldest patient has maybe been like 94 years old or so. A lot of acute injuries, repetitive stress injuries, and then a lot of chronic conditions and chronic pain as well. I am also a yoga instructor, and most of my training has been in Vinyasa yoga, but I also have some training in integrative somatic yoga and trauma-informed care. And have done some work with the Love Your Brain Yoga Foundation, which does yoga with people in the community following traumatic brain injuries. Yeah, I think that is where I'll leave kind of my intro, and I'd love to tell you all a little bit about what we're doing with the wellness program. So again, our roots at the wellness program were kind of in Alexander Technique, and as they were looking for kind of who they were going to hire as the new director of the program this year, they were looking to kind of see how we could broaden it and grow as a program. And so I've been excited to kind of form this new mission, which is sort of fourfold. So we want to promote health and wellness practices and education throughout the College of Music. So really looking at how can we embed health and wellness content throughout all of what we do here at the College of Music, because we know it can't just be an isolated program, right? It really has to kind of seep in and be a part of what we all do if we're really looking to overall help the wellness of our students. Looking at prevention, right? So preventing the occurrence of musicians' occupational health disorders, including physical, psychological, and auditory health issues. Again, those numbers right now are still really, really high. I think like 89.5% of orchestral musicians worldwide will get a musculoskeletal disorder, right? So those numbers again are still quite high. So how can we work to prevent those kinds of things? Education, right? So educating about health and safety practices, and then practical wellness tools that are evidence-based in injury prevention strategies, and then also educating students about the resources that are out there. So I'll tell you a little bit more about my class in a little bit that I teach, but I really want to introduce students to a wide variety of tools that are out there, right? One tool that works for me might not be the same one that works for every student. So how can we kind of introduce them to a wide variety of tools and have them choose the ones that work best for them? Collaboration has been another like big initiative that I am trying to bring into the wellness program here. So just really letting students and faculty know that the wellness program is here to collaborate with them, right? If they want to bring me into a studio class or have me come and do a lecture in the music ed or music pedagogy department on how do we incorporate wellness into this content. That is something we're really open to. And then kind of creating some fun events with the College of Music student government so far this semester as well, and seeing how, yeah, we can kind of co-create this environment for sustainable and healthy practices. And this picture here is one of the things that we did this semester with our orchestra, where they invited me in basically to do like a 15-minute kind of talk to the orchestra about like what are some exercises and warm-ups that we can do just right here in our seats. And so we kind of went through like a mind-body scan just to kind of get in touch with how our body was feeling that day, and then went through a few warm-up stretches that they could do like right in their chairs, even some of them like still holding their instruments. So just kind of opening up this idea that we can do these things when we're in rehearsals and when we're in the practice rooms, and it doesn't have to be, you know, I have to get down on the floor, but how accessible can we make these things to students? All right, so the current offerings here, we have a class called Wellness for Musicians, and so I teach that. So currently we only have the level 1. There will be a level 2 class starting next year as well. I redesigned that course. Again, originally it was kind of a more traditional Alexander technique course, and I've kind of taken it and broadened it quite a bit. So there's 6 classes geared towards functional anatomy and physiology and how does the body really move and function. We have information on mindfulness and mind-body practices. We go through nervous system regulation skills as well, and then things like functional exercise, nutrition, sleep. But it's really designed as an introduction course. So again, the big project at the end of the class is for students to put together their own personal wellness plan. So choosing from the things that they've been introduced to, how am I going to make it work for me? And really what tools did I learn that I can apply to my everyday life for my routine? So it's been really fun to roll that out. I have 2 sections of that class right now, bringing in lots of guest speakers too, who are experts in different topics. Actually, this week we have Jennifer Johnson here doing a body mapping course with the students as well, just to, again, introduce them to all different kinds of techniques that are out there. I have open wellness hours for the students where I'm just in our wellness space, and students can come in and either use the space for whatever they'd like to, or maybe consult with me if they need. I do work with students privately as well in terms of either physical therapy sessions or more kind of prevention and wellness sessions. Again, yeah, kind of going into other people's classes as well and doing lectures or running performance classes and studio classes from a wellness perspective. So that's been a lot of fun too. And then we do have Matt Tomatz, who is our embedded psychotherapist for the College of Music, to really address kind of the mental, emotional health piece that obviously affects our students so much there too. So he has 3 sections of group therapy that he does per week. And it's not for a credit, but students do have to commit to being a part of that group therapy for the entire semester. His sessions are always completely full. And he has this group therapy is called Developing the Whole Musician. So they go into topics of performance anxiety, identity, perfectionism, kind of really anything that comes up for our students there. And then he also does individual consultations as well. And I think that is kind of where I'll leave things, but I hope that gives you just a taste of kind of what we're doing here at CU. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you
Really
both.
beautiful work from both of you. Curious if anyone has comments or thoughts, questions.
I just want to say, Emily, I think it's just wonderful that this exists at CU. I mean, I've sort of cobbled that all together with my entrepreneurship, hat here at CMU. It's like, let's get an Alexander, let's go to yoga, let me teach mental training for peak performance, right? But that there's actually somebody who sits at the center of that, and it actually has a title and it's a thing, is I'm sure makes it very attractive to students and parents applying to CU. So hats off to you.
No, thank you, Monique. Yeah, I appreciate that. And again, I think that is one of the things that sets this wellness program maybe like apart from others, right? Like the fact that CU Boulder was actually willing to designate a full-time person, because I know a lot of other wellness coordinators at different universities who wear so many different hats, right? They're also like piano pedagogy, faculty or this and that. And really my full job here is dedicated to the wellness of the students. So it is something I'm very grateful for that they have decided to commit to. And I'm hoping maybe we'll see this model maybe at other places as well. Yeah.
I was really struck by the psychotherapist element in your program, Emily, because, just having lived a life in music, I feel very lucky to have worked with teachers who were supportive of me as a person, but I know that's not always the case. And we have many very negative teaching and learning experiences in our world. And to have a professional providing some kind of I don't know, almost like an antidote to whatever negative messaging, right? Like someone with some authority and in an accessible way can talk to students about perfectionism or about self-confidence or identity, and like not letting all of the stuff into our psyche that like can destroy you for decades. And so I'm curious if this happens at other schools, or is CU Boulder unique in having a dedicated psychotherapist for the music students?
I actually really don't know. I think in talking with Matt Tomatz, who is our embedded psychotherapist, I think the embedded programs, I think are kind of nationwide, at least in terms of different universities having that for different programs. I think that kind of started a lot after COVID, of like the need for so much more mental health support for students. So I know like our campus has, and like the embedded program is not just for the College of Music, but for our College of Arts and Sciences and other kinds of colleges. So I do think other universities have that, but I don't know how many schools of music have what we have with Matt, which again I think is super unique and so valuable for our students as well. Yeah, yeah. But I love too how like I did my doctoral research kind of on how can like physical therapy interventions that could help with music performance anxiety for students. Because again, I just feel like this mind-body connection piece was being missed even from some of my training in physical therapy school. So I love too that like even like Monique, you're like the sound healing, right? It addresses all of the pieces and like how is the things that are happening psychologically affecting the physical tension, which then increases your risk of getting an injury or getting pain, right? And so again, I think just the full circle of these things and seeing how like sound vibration can also like address it all, I think is so exciting.
Yes, Selma.
I had a question for Monique. I might have missed something because my Zoom was trying to eject me at the time you began, but I would love to hear a little more about how you found your way into sound healing yourself, and how you made your way into the activities as you described. Did I miss something at the beginning that I should have heard?
Yeah, just briefly recapping, I had a powerful experience in a sound bath once, just experiencing my mind becoming free of thought and my body becoming very relaxed as a result of just really one drone going through the room. And so that made a powerful impression. And then later, maybe 7 years later, when the pandemic hit and there was a mental health crisis going on, by that time I had done a lot of work, let's say, with playing the violin or music in places where people were suffering. But I also realized there's an element of, well, we don't like violin or we don't like classical music and Beethoven's not my thing, right? But when you're taking it right down to the elements of sound, which underpins all of that and it has no genre or people have no previous experience with it, there's something very powerful there when you're working with just the elements of music. And that is harmony, especially harmony and rhythm, which really bypass the thinking mind melody, not so much. and then going deeper to that, to the physical, the physical vibration of sound in the body, in addition to these beating, sound vibrations that affect the brainwave states.
Where was your first experience? How did that actually come about?
I perform at a spa and resort in Mexico, and I do concerts there, and they do sound baths every afternoon. And so I just went and lay on the carpet in front of a big old singing bowl, and they droned that, and that was the end of it.
I've heard some wonderful sort of new music and experimental music performances in my background, and have been so intrigued by these stories of the people who were involved. I'm thinking of Meredith Monk, who has made music that included or was embracing glass. I think they were glass bowls.
Mhm.
And another example actually was when in the 70s, there were a lot of very experimental music composers at York University, where I taught in Toronto, who were doing biofeedback research.
Mhm.
And it was very interesting to go to their quite intimate sort of, sort of among themselves music performances. They were sort of sharing the sources of sounds they were working with anyone who came. And I've always been fascinated by all of these sorts of things that are, I sometimes remember people using the word threshold music, or, sort of music that takes people to a place of unfamiliarity that is mostly sound rather than repertoire or something like that. It's very liberating. A lot of the most unusual music I heard also over quite a few years at the Guelph Jazz Festival was into this sort of quite specific kind of sound experiencing. One of the most memorable had also taught at York was Pauline Oliveros. So it's just such a great area, I think, for people to adventure in. And I'm really glad you spoke about it today, and the way you've worked with it in your context, because it's something that enriches people and changes their perceptions, I think, really, to all music thereafter, if you've had that opportunity.
Yes, thank you for sharing that, Selma. The sound bath experience is one essentially of taking people into a deeply meditative state with no effort on their part. And so I think of it, I even though I use musical principles and elements, I don't think of it as a music or genre at all. Although, as you say, singing bowls have been incorporated into musical compositions, right? But this is essentially a sound directed meditation that takes zero effort, and people fall into that state, which is it is truly transformative, which is why I do it. So I see people coming in all sorts of places of constriction. What do I do? Where do I put my bag? My shoes, and like this, right? And then they're just sort of leaving like this, right? And completely expanded. That is fascinating to me. And we're also working with EEG and biofeedback and all of that now at Carnegie Mellon University to find out exactly what is happening in the brain. But that's, it's something. And of course, I do play the violin in my sound baths. So, I play at the very beginning. I play something probably like Bach, just to interrupt their whatever they're thinking is like, oh my God, there's a violin in this room, right? And I play something that's very, very grounding and predictable. And then we go into the sounds and silences of the sound bath. And at the end, when they're sort of in a deeper relaxed state, a theta state, I need to bring them safely back into like an alpha relaxed state. And that's where I introduce again melody and probably something that they recognize, a tune, that would be more popular, so that their mind starts following that and bringing them back into just a relaxed state so they can safely leave the room.
One of the things that struck me last week when I had this woman coming in and doing a sound healing thing for our students as well was she was saying, as musicians, so much of what we do is kind of like giving music to others or feeling kind of this, this need to like do all of this for other people and like giving music away. But like how often do we actually use kind of its own healing powers as well? And I think that struck a lot of the students too. So I'm curious if you've had, just students bring that up as well, maybe.
Yeah, it's interesting. First of all, I train a lot of people. Most of them are not musicians. And probably, the person who might have done your sound bath might not have been a musician. But maybe they are. It's sort of an unfair advantage if you are, right? And it's wonderful. So mostly the folks that come to the Scotty Sound Bath at CMU are non-musicians, are people from all over campus. We had a lot of very stressed engineers students in there. But I do use it because I teach them mental training for peak performance class. And so what I want to do is create a memory of a somatic, memory for students of being on stage and being completely relaxed. And so without telling them anything, okay, today everybody grab a yoga mat. All right, we're doing a thing. And they lie on the stage and I perform a sound bath for them right there on the stage. And, most of them have never done it before. They have some experiences. I allow them to share afterwards. And some of them are really profound. Wow, I felt this weight lifted from my chest that I never knew was there before. Or I was somewhere, I don't think I was asleep, even though they were snoring, but I was somewhere in between, right? And that is the perception for most people. So the body will appear to be asleep, but they are in some sort of other state. So these are powerful experiences. And then I have them in that deeply relaxed state get up, begin to feel their body, begin to stand on stage and keep themselves in that space looking into the hall and simply without their instrument, just being here relaxed in this space, which is an anchor that they can return to later. Now, when I do train musicians, they do incorporate their playing. So let's say for flutists, I train, I don't know, train several flutists. And apparently there's that excerpt, Afternoon of a Faun, that requires a lot of breath. So they'll do the whole sound bath. They will not have warmed up, right? They do the whole sound bath. People, I'll have them lying, well, let's say when they're in the sound bath, have them lying down. And I say, I want you to play Afternoon of a Faun at the very end, after an hour of not warming up, right? And the experience has been they get up and it's like they can do it in one breath instead of two. It's like it's so easy, not because they practice and practice, but because they've actually just relaxed their body. And now they have a greater capacity for breath, and their mind is also able to do things. So that has been the experience of, for musicians who actually are there to take the sound bath and perform afterwards. That they're just approaching it from a completely different space. This is not about you. Nobody's looking at you. Nobody's analyzing you. You're playing for folks that are on the floor, vulnerable, open-hearted, and you're playing the music directly into their heart. So how are you going to play?
I think what I'm finding so fascinating as I'm reflecting and listening is that there's this kind of return to the parts, right? Whether it's the body or whether it's the sound. I was just doing a little reading on some of the history of flute pedagogy, for example, for teaching really young kids. And in the Suzuki world, we go from like book 1 all the way up through. We have more books than all the rest of them combined, something crazy like this. We have like 14 books. We used to have 15. We're kind of cutting back, getting down to a normal amount. But the joke used to be by one of the teacher trainers that who went into the neuroscience area before he passed, was that book 60 is just laying on the floor and breathing. And I just think that it's such, even within a somatic practice like the Dalcroze world, where we work a lot of different skill sets. It's actually fairly intensive to become a teacher. There's a lot required of us, but a lot of us ended up there because there's a connection to our first instrument, our body, that we didn't find in other spaces. And I still, even for myself within that context, I'm often looking for some of the simplest the most common denominator between the spaces that I travel in. And so it's just really wonderful to hear you both talk about ways that you're opening up some of those spaces for people to have those experiences perhaps earlier in their careers, or returning to some of the experiences that they might have first had that ever drew them to music, as it were, because it really is about something between like this format of our body in relationship to sound, in relationship to our instrument, that usually brings us into these spaces, and also can be part of the reason why we end up needing other supports. And it's just nice to hear about places and spaces where, instead of it being something that you are looking for 30 or 40 years down the road or trying to find, that there actually could be there right at the beginning, even though I think perhaps many of your students don't perceive their point in journey the beginning. They've arrived there after quite a long period of training. Anyways, thank you both. It's really nice to hear you share. I did have a little bit of a question, I guess, for both of you, because I suppose that on the outside, like what you assume that you are arriving to when there's a sound bath versus maybe what you assume that you're arriving to when there's something that says, hey, we're going to be doing a musician's wellness course. Those might be different things. And so I don't know, Monique, if you put your sound bath work in the context of a different course or a different title, or if people are arriving and getting exactly what they thought they'd get. And Emily, I'm sure, like, there's, like, as we know, the tip of the iceberg is only the story of what's actually underneath that they're receiving. And we saw so much of the underneath part in what you presented today, but like, I'm curious a little bit about how your like kind of sometimes what your students think they signed up for, and then what they are like delighted to have received. I don't mean this at all like in the negative sense of things, but just that I'm sure that sometimes the person who arrives going, okay, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z in your class, and you're like, yes, and and then what kind of happens over the course of that journey a little bit, maybe for both sides.
I'll let Emily go because she has to leave.
Okay, thank you. Yes, I'll just yeah, I'll probably head out at about 12:55 or so. Thank you so much. Yeah, no, that's a really interesting question, Emma. I love thinking about that. So I think yes, especially for like this first kind of cohort of students that have been with me for this Wellness for Musicians class, like they all signed up for not this class, right? They signed up for a class that was in the course catalog called Wellness for Musicians, but was traditionally taught as an Alexander Technique course. And that is what the kind of the syllabus and the description said it was. And so, and that is just that's not what I do. So yeah, kind of it was a surprise on the first day to them kind of being like, yes, this is Wellness for Musicians. It also maybe looks a lot different than it did before. And I think they've been really excited during the kind of at the midpoint of this semester. I had them all do kind of a reflection and kind of go through some anonymous questions, kind of just like writing down so I could get some feedback on like how are things going, what might be something you want to make sure is in the second half of the semester that you really want to know about, what's working really well for you, and kind of taking some time to be like, okay, like what are we seeing? A lot of them were like really fascinated by some of the anatomy stuff, and I think that's changed things a lot. We did take a lot of time and focus on like how do we breathe and things like that. And that has like changed a lot for people of like, oh my gosh, okay, this is how my ribs move and how my diaphragm moves, and my breath will affect my posture, and that will affect my core function. And like, how do all these things work together in this way? So yeah, I think definitely like we're just always like adapting things. And so I think students have been, I'd like to say pleasantly surprised, maybe. But again, there's like still so much more exploration. And I think a lot of what I've been doing this first semester has been kind of, it's almost felt like marketing a little bit of like, here's what we're maybe doing and here's where we're headed maybe with the wellness program, but also a lot of learning from people and opening up the question of like, what do you want this to be, right? Like this is here for you and tell me, and then I'll figure out maybe some ways of how we can bring in, yeah, what you're looking for. So I hope that helps with that a little. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, on my end, the sound bath classes, so to speak, there are, when people are actually receiving a sound bath at Carnegie Mellon, they're just signing up for a fitness class, just like anything else, yoga or kickboxing, and they come one time or they come 5 times, depending on whatever they sign up for. So that's just a wide open thing. They don't, maybe a friend was like, you have to try this, right? Or they saw it on TV, or, and they just come in. And invariably, first timers are going to have an experience that just sort of, blows their mind. If nobody's ever meditated, and even if I have expert meditators, they'll come in and say, wow, my mind is now where I would have been on a 3rd day of a meditation retreat, right? So the fact that it can have this effect is sort of surprising to people. However, my class where I actually teach this, right? Teach them my protocols and the history of it and all of that. There is no course number for that. That lives under my collaborative project for music entrepreneurship class, right? It's a music and wellness offering. And then word gets out, she's doing this thing, and people sign up for it. So right now it's a little bit under the radar, just because I never expected to be doing this. And I certainly never expected it to be this popular or to have this much demand. But I can tell you that the demand for this locally and internationally, and by magazines that are calling, and interviews and apps and things, it completely blows my mind. I was literally like, I don't want anyone to know I'm doing this because I'm a serious musician and this is not serious, It's like, so I literally hid for 2 years. I was like, I'm not going to tell anybody it's me. Yeah. But then I was just sort of outed, because it was on the front page of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. And it was like, okay, well, nothing I can do about that. So I'm owning it now. And what I find, and this is what my students, I think, find that is so surprising, is that they thought they were going to learn how to play singing bowls. And instead they've found a deeper way to connect with themselves. They found a way to manage their stress very effectively. And they found this incredibly powerful thing, which is, I can actually do something that makes other people feel better right away. There's something incredibly powerful in knowing that you can do that for your colleagues or for other people. And they take, they can see it visibly right after. So that for them is incredibly empowering. And then for musicians who are taking it, it shifts their approach to performance. Because once they've performed in a setting where they truly realize nobody is looking at you, this is all you're playing for the well-being of other people. And the response, when somebody's totally relaxed and then you play Afternoon of a Faun into their heart, I mean, what are they going to be like? They're going to be crying like, oh my God, that was the most beautiful thing I ever heard, right? Because of the state that they're in. And when they get that kind of feedback, it's like, my music touched somebody. It made a difference. Then they remember that and they go onto stage with a different type of connection to other humans when they're performing. And I think these are, powerful takeaways that you can't put in the syllabus.
I do have to run out, but thank you all so much for having me. And
Thank you,
yeah,
Emily.
it was
It was
such a
lovely to
pleasure
have
to
you
be
here.
here.
And what a lovely note overall for us to finish this evening on. We do have a couple more minutes if anyone else would like to say anything, but I just think Monique and Emily did such a beautiful job of kind of looking at the behind the scenes wishes that we all still have to connect to our music and to our bodies and to the sounds that we make in different ways. And that's part of what has maybe led us into practices that involve the body and involve movement in the ways that we do. Alice, I see your hand up.
Sorry, I just got in at the tail end and it was still worth it just to hear what our previous colleague had to say. So I'm very sorry. I had a Zoom from at 11 o'clock, so it was hard to get in, but I really hope to hear more of, what you're talking about, because I think everything that she said rings true and keeps us going. So I'd love to hear what is happening, if we have any more, what's coming up for the next VDM. Do you know? Does anyone there know? Veronica, you're
Yes.
oh,
Nice to have you back, Alice.
thank you.
Yeah, Selma is teaching a short course next week.
Oh, great.
And it's going to be about community and how we connect to each other and build programs and have some elements of history, but also reflecting about our lives. And then Kay Barker is teaching a masterclass in a couple weeks.
Right.
So those are
Thank
those
you.
last two events for 2025, and then we'll announce some more for 2026 soon.
Okay, thank you. I shall pay closer attention. I had to stop teaching. I was teaching at the Crowden Music School for a while. And then I had a bicycle accident last November. So
Sorry to hear that.
I don't ride the bike anymore, so I can't really get there very, very easily. So, but I shall try to find something closer to home.
Mm.
Anyway,
Well,
thank you so much all, and I look forward to, and is there any more print edition of our newsletter?
of which
Of the
news?
Delcros newsletter? The DSA?
I'm not sure. So the DSA is like a different organization from the VDM. So you might just kind of reach out to them and see.
Okay, will do.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks so much, everybody. Nice to see you all.
I guess I just wanted to say thank you to Monique and also to Emily. I felt so, I mean, as just as someone who went through music school, I felt so cared for by the programs you're describing, even though I'm not meeting you in the same time and place as a student. And I was mentioning to one of my adult flute students that I, laid on the floor and did a Feldenkrais audio lesson recently. And he was like, how do you find time for that? Like, you do so many things. But I was just like, this is part of practicing. Like,
Yeah.
I can't skip it. If I don't find time for it, I'm just going to start playing with all this tension and pain and without connecting to myself. So I think I found some of this work later, but I just see what a gift it is to offer that to students while they're in school.
What a lovely note to end on. Well, thank you all for coming. We love to start as close to on time and finish as close to on time as we can, as Stephen says. And so we miss having him here, but we are so grateful that we're all here, and we look forward to the next thing. Meetup 90 coming your way soon, and this next short course and masterclass. What a joy to get to see you all. And so we look forward to seeing you again at the next event.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Have a good
everybody.
night,
Take care,
everybody.
everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.